Hi everyone, welcome to the Global Art Cafe. We're talking with Mom. It's March 2022 and today we're talking about growth and new beginnings, new opportunities.
Yeah, here we are.
What have you been doing?
In the snowing Northland that we've got about 4 feet of snow, and I'm thinking about planting seeds.
Why not? We have
Well,
we have open water. I just took a quick walk down to the lake before we recorded and the stream is flowing and the lake's still frozen, but the sun is out and there's a little slush happening out there.
my friend has seedlings growing for her high hoop house in her son's growing room. They've got tomatoes and onions growing. So
It's
all
starting.
the time.
The seeds are growing.
And we're thinking about growing more sunflowers this year, especially with the need with Ukraine. They need all the warmth and love they can get. And so that's one thing that we can do is plant some sunflowers and let them shine.
Yeah. Yeah, there, people always say, well, what can I really do? What difference can I make? And, even planting seeds, whether it's flowers or other kinds of seeds in lives, can make a difference. Even if the simplest smile, somebody sees the flowers and they're like, oh, that's awesome. Or, somebody knows that you planted them, they might drive by just to see the flowers, and that it does brighten people's day. And we do have opportunities to do that. I brought some flowers in the studio today for us here because it is spring coming and that beauty does shine through and it makes you feel better. So surround yourself with beauty and plant some seeds for the spring. What kind of flowers, what other flowers are you going to plant? Maybe veggies, some tomatoes, green peppers.
Absolutely. Marigolds. We got to have marigolds.
Those are a must. Keep the rabbit.
Gold petunias, gold and purple.
We like that blend, don't we?
Yeah.
So, I like the new wave ones. They have the purple petunia waves and the yellow ones. Well,
Yeah.
Yellow, right there. Gotta have it.
Yep.
They're happy colors.
I think it creates a lot of positive energy. And I know for us, we kind of surround ourselves with lots of green and flowers in the spring and summer because we have a little tiny place to be, but we fill it up with as much growing stuff as possible because it makes us feel good.
Yeah. Well, and I think people think, oh, it's kind of, this conversation we're having right now, they might think, oh, this is kind of trivial, like dribble and whatever. But seriously, have you considered how much of a difference it makes to have flowers in the house? Just little things you can do to boost your mood. You don't realize if you're having a bad day, buy yourself some flowers or, and having plants in the house, it does add life. And I've been doing a lot of work with Life Path colors. And when you empower yourself to use the colors like the green, that also applies to plants. In March, I'm going to be putting down a color challenge and we're going to do 31 shades of green for March. So if you want to play along, create art, plant some plants. What do you got going there? You going to show us a plant?
No, I'm shading.
I know the sun is bright there.
It's really bright and it was like 36 degrees out because the sun's so warm.
For those listening, people listening on the podcast, she's just put shaded. All of a sudden, there was this big shadow over her face, and I'm like, "What's happening right now?"
Well, here we go.
She put her arm down. So playing with shadows, that can be fun too. No, but seriously, green has a power to bring life. the seedling, the new seedling has a bright green, and then as it grows and the sun hits it, it gets this deeper green, or maybe it's different shades of green. And there's life in that, life in the growth of the plant. And that also represents growth in our own lives. And the work that I'm doing with the Life Path Colors, we bring those things together: art, life, our lives, the color in our lives. We can really engage with that color to feel better, healthier, more balanced, happy. It just, just have, I mean, gardening. Who doesn't love walking through a beautiful garden? Does it boost your mood? The smells, these purple flowers, they almost smell like lilacs, which is my favorite. And I had them by my bed, and it's like, oh, that's all I need. What else do you need?
Yeah, and what you're doing overall there is creating positive energy. And I think the more positive energy that we have, the more we can give off to others.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's here or thousands of miles away, we send that positive energy through the hemisphere to, again, empower people.
Yep. Yeah, the more people that think positive and send their positive thoughts and prayers, the energy, the vibes, whatever you want to call it, it has an effect. Just like when you're sick, the more positive you are, the more likely you are to overcome it. Sometimes that's not possible, but you can really provide a lot of healing in your body, especially over things like anxiety and depression. You can make a shift. I'm not saying giving some diagnosis, but there is a definite positive impact to, using some of these things.
I'm going to fix the shade here, folks.
Can you hear pulling the shade down yet? We're going to darken it just for a minute. But if you're sitting listening in the podcast, what do you think? If you were going to plant some flowers, what sort of flowers would you choose to plant? Sunflowers seem very appropriate right now with the Ukraine. We want to send all of our positive vibes their way to that side of the world. And they've certainly been suffering enough with, the last couple of years and the way the world is right now. We all need to continue to surround ourselves with healthy shades of green and orange and yellow and light and positivity and sharing kindness and good thoughts. And the more that we can send there, hopefully that will filter into the people that need to hear it. And earlier today, Mom had posted something on Facebook, and we were talking, that's kind of the root of our conversation today. We talked about new growth was, let me read it to you here. We cannot force someone to hear a message they are not ready to receive, but we must never underestimate the power of planting a seed. And so hopefully there's a seed of some truth in what you hear today, and it will inspire you or someone else to take positive action in their life.
And there are always things happening in our lives where we need to discern how we respond. And I think that having these kinds of things going on in our lives helps us be able to take that breath and look at the situation and act rather than react.
Right.
It's really easy to get wound up and jump on the bandwagon about anything that's going on in our lives, and maybe get a little too preachy at someone or some group of people. If we stand back, though, and take a breath before we say what we think we've got to say, we would temper that with understanding that the people with the other opinion are not in the same place we are.
Right. And I think that's like a key to everything, is when you're having any sort of relationship, whether it's professional, personal, and that's pretty much covers everything. But then your own life too, like how you live your life, how you understand things.
Right. It's
We're
in
not, yeah, no one's in the same place. So when somebody gives you one piece of advice, depending on where you're at in your life, it won't resonate in the same way. It's not going to have the same effect as if, just thinking like for myself in coaching, there's a lot of coaches out there that maybe listen to this podcast. We all know we're at different stages of the journey in coaching and where we are with our marketing. And in the beginning, we're not ready to do the big offer yet. And so we need to just pace ourselves and be okay with where we're at, because we're not ready to do all the other things yet. We're just not there. Just like a baby's not ready to go to the office and work for 40 hours, you just got to realize that maybe you're not there.
well, and it gives way to reminding ourselves that we need to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we need to just let someone feed us everything that's spilling out of them, listen to that, and not really respond until they invite us to respond by pausing or whatever that is, or
Mm-hmm.
making a statement that invites us to do that. And then while we're listening, we're making a choice how we're going to respond. We're not in the same place as that person. They're not going to see it the same way. However, it gives you opportunity to shed light on maybe another way to look at something.
Well, I can think of one example right now. Like sometimes I'll just speak from personal, because you're talking these abstract thoughts and people are like, well, that's not me. Well, like I can say there have been times, this is talking with mom, right? So like we've had conversations,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I probably most likely was not ready to hear certain things that were said to me, and made some fairly large mistakes in my life that I
We
now
do
realize
that.
would have been wise for me to listen, but I was not in a place to do that at the time. So, but also now, like looking at that now and like being a mom too, like you share information, because a lot of us are parents, or maybe you're a manager in a business and you have to give hard news to somebody. If you think about, like, maybe you just share information and you don't have to have a response from that person, like,
Exactly. Yeah.
like maybe offer that from another perspective. Do you have to be right? Do you have to expect the person you're talking to make a decision immediately? Maybe you could just say, let's plant that seed and let
Exactly.
that person grow, let them grow, and hope that the decision ends up being a good one.
And make it clear when you're making your statement. This is for you to think about. This is information. It's not asking you to make a decision or change your mind or do anything at the moment. It's just information so that you can take it and sift through it and see where does it apply or if it does at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, and isn't that better conversation than, it's like the difference between telling, like you're telling somebody something, or sharing something. What's the other word I'm thinking of?
Well,
Very different thing, like, in a work scenario, or even a parent, because I said so, you know,
that's never a good one.
right? But that's the thing. It's like I can say because I said so, or you need to have this done by the end of the day. This has to be turned in. That's a common, I mean, that's all the time. I mean, in a work scenario,
Yes.
you're
There are the
expected to
ways
have
to
this
do
done.
that.
Here it is. There's no conversation then. We're back to last episode talking about, fine, that's an ender, we're done. Whereas if you said, okay, we have this project, could we discuss, what the parameters are, what's the realist, what are the expectations on both sides, and allow the person to contribute. And I know it's been proven, employees that feel heard are going to perform 10 times better, 100 times better, because they're valued for their input rather than because I said, blah. And the same goes with any relationship, parent, child, spouse, partner, whatever, friendship,
It's showing respect.
Yeah, it really is.
It
For
really
each
is.
other, like hopefully it goes both ways. Like, I think the hard thing is to learn how to have conversations where you're not interrupting. I was talking to somebody over the weekend, a colleague of mine, and she was telling me a story of two people who were interrupters, and she just sat there and she's like, the reason I can't necessarily be friends with this one person anymore is because I'm never heard.
Yes.
And I am sure that a lot of people can relate to that, whether it's themselves, somebody else they know, whatever. If you want to grow in your life, we're going to make sure we're talking about growth. We're talking about the seeds of growth today. That's what I think a lot of us can learn a lot from. And I've been reading the book, The Listening Path by Julia Cameron, and that it's really focusing on what we're talking about here, the whole art of a conversation and the people you surround yourself, just like healthy plants, you're going to grow having nurturing people, nurturing plants, the garden. Think of a beautiful garden. Just much more enjoyable.
That's for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're talking with somebody that all they do is they interrupt. It's like having sand for your yard and the water glass is empty, there's nothing.
Or you have clay and you put water on it and you continue to put water on it and you continue to put water on it, and doggone, those darn plants drown.
Well, and the water just runs over it, so it's really not having any effect.
No. So we tend to do that to ourselves and to other people if we're not careful.
Mm-hmm. I was just looking through this book by Louise Hay on how to heal your life, some meditations, and one of her quotes here is, the more I understand, the more my world expands. And that's really, my mission with the Global Art Cafe and our conversations is hopefully there's some nuggets that help you expand your world, right?
Well, that's part of what is going on with the growth thing and everything, is you're opening yourself up to receive more.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing that, you're closed off and things can't grow or change. So
yeah, I think lately I've been doing that Unplugged, which I didn't make my announcement this week. This is week 5 of Unplugged. If you haven't read it, I'll just give myself a shameless plug for my blog. I wrote about the first 4 weeks, but my point with it is, though, it's been forcing me to look at how I'm spending my time. And I think a lot of people are guilty of the same thing, of where you're just busy, one thing after another. And, I'm still busy. I still have a lot of things to do, but the real challenge comes in slowing down and the listening, not just listening in conversations, but listening to yourself, taking time so that you can have this growth. It's counterintuitive. I had somebody else say this, they reacted to the blog post over the weekend when read it, and it resonated with them as well. It's a constant struggle. If you're open to growth, you see what you need.
Yeah, and you have to be cognizant of what's going on around you and not have all the noise, because that interrupts that flow that you're gaining while you're listening.
Right. Like when I'm doing morning pages, which, I'm attempting to do that every day during this morning of being unplugged. And like today, I woke up knowing I have a long list of things, and it was really hard. It was really difficult to journal because I already knew in my head I had all those things, and that's what the morning pages are for, is to really work through it and figure out how to do it. But the quieting the brain enough to actually do it, some days are just harder than others.
Yeah. And when it gets too hard, it's time to put it all down and give yourself some quiet time and let things be so that you can.
Right. Go for a walk. This is what I did. I took a 15-minute walk. Do something. One of the things I've learned in my research, building some things and tools for my coaching is with creativity, especially in order to jog yourself to another frame of mind, is if you're sedentary, especially, let's say that's the example, is to get up. Do something that's the opposite of what you're doing. Or if you're really intense thinking, maybe you're an engineer or you've been coaching somebody, been on the phone all day, it's time for you to be quiet. Get the cup of tea and take 10, 15 for yourself. And that will rejuvenate you so you can get back to growth and being present in a healthy way.
Well, I think that that's typical of, in the professional world, therapists and caregivers and all of those people that are just immersed in serving, and they've got all this going on, and they need this time out to refurbish themselves so that they can continue to do that care. And it goes the same for being a parent with your children around and all that they do. And it's okay to say, I need time. That time is so valuable for those children when you come back to them and you can love them and hear them rather than be agitated because you're anxious about everything.
Yeah, you're worn down to a point you can't take any more in. But it circles back though, right? Like what you're saying, and it circles back to what you said before. Respect is you're building. You're doing a lot of things. You're saying I am worthy of respect for my time and my mental health, and it also shows them how to do that for themselves. So if you don't do that, you're actually teaching them not to do it for themselves when they get to that point or before that at some point, in a way, like, because you learn through what you see. So, right. I mean, it may not end up that way, but it has a pretty good chance of being that way.
And that respect for yourself and your time and how you are then turns into respect for those you're interacting with.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can give it then.
Well, isn't it the same thing as like, and it's the whole thing again with coaching, especially is the magic pill is, do you love yourself? Do you feel like you are worthy? Do you believe in yourself? It all comes back to that.
It does.
Yeah. It's pretty simple.
We like to make it hard though.
I know. And it's hard to slow down. It's hard to, take time to enjoy, they say stop and smell the roses.
Hello?
Smell the flowers, or take a walk in the middle of a day when you got 500 things to do.
Well, God knew what he was doing when he had us plant seeds.
What was that?
He's teaching us respect for the length of time that it takes for that seed to burst forth.
Well, and there's a responsibility.
You're out there looking and hoping it's not up yet. And 7 days later, I haven't seen anything yet. Well, on day 8, there it is.
The little sprout.
Yeah.
Well, and it also teaches a whole bunch of other things, right? And that's why kids in elementary school learn to plant seeds, because it is a lesson in a lot of different ways, right? Yeah. They got to take care of it.
Yep. You have to take care of it and you have to be patient.
Yeah.
I
usually end up, like, my thing is usually it's like super dry and then I overwater it and it dies anyway. Even the cactus. I mean, you gotta know what you're doing to have a healthy plant. And having a healthy life, that's even more complicated. So I guess we just, get up every day and try again.
Exactly.
Hmm.
We do again. We don't try. We do
Oh,
again.
that's right. No try, just do. Yoda. So I'll read this thing and we can talk about this and then we'll wrap her up for March and we'll get growing.
I know.
So I am constantly increasing my understanding. This is a reading from Louise Hay. I am teachable. Every day I open my awareness a little more to the divine wisdom within me. I am glad to be alive and so grateful for the good that has come to me. Life to me is an education. Every day I open my mind and my heart as a child does, and I discover new insights, new people, new viewpoints, and new ways to understand what's happening around me and within me. My human mind may not always understand at first. Understanding seems to require lots of love and patience. My new mental skills are really helping me feel more at ease with all the challenges and changes in this incredible school of life here on planet Earth.
Excellent.
So plant a sunflower, call a friend, buy yourself a bouquet of flowers, grab a bucket of paintbrushes and some watercolors and paint something green, maybe some yellow, and bring some life into your life and enjoy the moment and open yourself to growth. What's your word of wisdom for today, Mom?
I'd like everyone to take the time to just have a little sunshine and send it on to all those around us that need it.
Agreed. See you next month. Or talk to you next month. If you're on YouTube, we'll see you there. And if you're on the podcast, we'll be back talking at you. The Global Art Cafe sends our hope and prayers to the Ukraine for the safety and welfare of those in harm's way. Provide comfort to those in need.